I was working on a game called Guild Wars 2, and I wanted very badly to get into Dungeons & Dragons because it was one of those things that had always been closed off to me as a young person. I was not invited to join the Dungeons & Dragons games, which were largely run by dudes and played by dudes. So it was something that kind of was always this nerd gate that I had never passed through. At one point, I was like, we're just going to put together a super group and we're going to play Dungeons & Dragons with people who have played, haven't played. They're just my favorite people. We played for like 2 years pretty regularly. To give yourself permission to pretend with other adults is something that very few other games offer as an opportunity. So it was wonderful, and I got the bug ever since. For Dungeons & Dragons, it's kind of surprising. The UX experience I had ended up being pretty essential to the reason why they hired me. Theoretically, I have the ability to look at a book that's in production and find all of the pieces of friction where a user might not understand, or things could be better organized, or we could really use, this should be as a table, that'll be easier, or we need maps of this, whatever. They want someone who is able to look at all of the pieces that make up a product and essentially guide them through execution. When I started playing 5th edition, which was February 2017 when the C Team began, our first season, I had been playing 4th edition, I think, previous to that. To look through the books, to see how different it looked from older editions, to feel like I was seeing like these powerful characters who were female and who didn't have like tiny bikinis, or even like the ones who are armored. They're not wearing boob armor usually. It feels more real. It feels more like I'm actually being taken seriously. My gender is being taken seriously, and that makes me want to participate. I think that the very intentional inclusivity of the art in 5th edition's books, because when they made it, they've told me that they intentionally set a 50% no white dudes rule in 5th edition, and it was effective. I see this kick-ass dwarf barbarian lady, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Getting to be on Aki Inc. and do the C-Team stuff, I started to interact more with the Dungeons & Dragons community, which is, by and large, the best community in gaming, super kind. I wanted to make it. I wanted to be a part of it and give other people this experience of, like, you belong in this place, and you get to express this part of your humanity, this storytelling and imaginative part of your humanity that modern life doesn't offer you in any other way. So I wanted to be able to be a vehicle for more of that, I think. The reason I designed Rosie to be old was because I'd recently had a woman in my life who was 93 and passed away, and she was incredible, and I loved talking to her and hearing her stories. And so I had started to pay more attention to older people and what they have to tell, and the fact that there's so much life lived, and I realized that that's a perfect character because she has more experience in her little finger than I have in my whole body. And so I can play this character who's just, she's 120 years old, and so that's 4 of me. How much have I done? And then multiply that by 4, and it's just this wealth of possibility for adventure. I think because societally women are discarded as they get older, and that's something that I've struggled with as I get older. I'm almost 34, and I've started to see like aging happen in my body, and it makes me fearful. So I wanted to create a character who had taken her age and made it part of her strength, and to give the sense that being old was aspirational, because we're all going to get there if we're lucky, so why not have it be something we can be kind of excited about? So Rosie's just a little step in that direction. We have fans who are making us songs and writing lyrics and singing them and recording them and collaborating, and there's just something about D&D where there's enough gaps that your creativity can kind of like fill those gaps no matter what you bring to the table. The C-Team community is just the best about this. They're very, very good. They're wonderful people. My favorite aspect is that they have assembled their own community and they have started to become friends and form relationships within themselves, and they go off and they do things together. They're playing Dungeons and Dragons together, or they're doing these collaborative art projects together that has very little to nothing to do with us. And so for me, it's very rewarding to see these people who were individuals when they started, who have become a conglomerate and who are then taking their collective genius and making their own beautiful things to put into the world. At a bunch of shows, people have come up during autograph line signing stuff, and they'll say, like, is it okay with you if I make this character a Beestinger? It doesn't matter what they're about to tell me, but I'll say, like, tell me about them. It's always 100% yes. There's never been a rejection. To experience how powerful that connection has been for people, that they want to belong to this greater group, even if it's just by name or it's just one single story that they can tell about Rosie, it helps you kind of place yourself in the world. It makes you feel like instantly you have a history. And so for me, it's incredibly gratifying that people would want to participate in it at all, but it's also extremely convenient for my own Rosie plot that actually, like, she does have this vast network, and everyone, like, there are people who they write me stories about their characters, and they'll say, like, there was this Mother's Day event where they all wrote letters, which is incredible, and they were like, remember the time when you and I, blah, 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 blah. So these things are informing who Rosie is as much as she's informing who they are. And I can't think of another medium quite like that. It's really remarkable. My job is fun, but it's work. It's trying to be exacting, and it's trying to be accurate, and it's trying to be entertaining. And then the C team is like the other half of my brain, which is all creativity, all fun. So luckily, I guess, because of the streaming nature of C team, I have my own personal game built in every week. Like, I have to be there, or, you know, the show will go on without me. We are primarily there to entertain each other. Like, we're there to play a real game of Dungeons and Dragons and goof around. It just feels like sitting around with my family and playing a game. I'm very lucky in that regard. We all four of us have this issue where we're like, oh no, the spotlight's on me. But I can talk myself down from it a couple of ways. One is that I know that everybody at that table is excited to learn about my character. And by the same token, I am deeply excited to learn about all of their characters. And if we've worked very hard on this, if we can trust each other and realize, like, no, you're not stealing the spotlight, this is all we want right now. If you can actually internalize that and believe it, and if your group means it, which mine does, luckily, then it gets a lot easier to deal with. Rosie has so many surprises in her that Jerry and I know about and nobody else does, that I'm delighted to share them with my friends. Like, I can't wait for you guys to get a load of the story that my DM and I have written together, you know? Keeping the sense of, like, this is a group experience, this is a shared experience, and we're all here to have fun, so let's all help. Once you can get everybody kind of supporting that structure, it gets a lot easier. I take any chance I can to DM at Adventurers League events or introduce new people to play Dungeons & Dragons, and that's been a super joy. I think that's probably my number one passion when it comes to play, is how can I make it so the people I play with are having the best experience they can, and if it's their first time, that they are dying to come play Dungeons & Dragons again, with me or with whomever. Like, I want it to be like, oh my god, Dungeons & Dragons is so much fun. That's the number one most important thing. I think that a good DM is pretty empathetic. You can sense whether people are having fun at the table, and you can kind of tweak it so that they might find something that interests them more. But yeah, I think the focus has to be for giving them their first hit free. It's got to be a thing where they feel powerful, they feel like anything was possible for them, and they laughed and they had a good time, and they could be silly and they could be self-conscious, because we all are our first game, but that even despite that, they were accepted. I think that video games and Twitter and Facebook have made us all very isolated, and that's almost by design. I think that when someone is by themselves, you can sell them more stuff. I don't know, that's just my cynical anti-capitalist creed. But streaming has been huge for Dungeons & Dragons. For people to be able to look at a table of people having fun and be like, I can do that. I want to do that. That's huge. But it's also 5th edition. I think that 5th edition did a very thoughtful revamp of mechanics, of representation, of art, and of presentation. You just have this snowball effect. People want to have that fun. They want to test what that's like because it looks like people are having so much fun doing it. Like, why wouldn't you want to try it? First hit's free.